Oh, I see Charlie walking by with his son. Hi. All right, it's time to start. Tonight we have the pleasure, and I'm making it sound good.
Good.
Okay. The pleasure of hearing a story, a life story.
Ray's going to bear his soul.
With, well, I don't know. Is that what you have in mind?
Something
Ray
like that.
Gilbert. This is not a comedy show, okay? So.
Can I leave now?
Well, no, you can't leave now. So let's start.
No, wait, it's not
back.
going to be a comedy show. Let me get something out of the way. You got to tell a story. But this woman's going to take her son on the bus. The boy is 7 years old. She says, listen, at 7 they charge a full fare. Tell the bus driver you're 6 years old. Okay. So he gets on the bus, and the bus driver says, how old are you? He says, I'm 6. He says, when are you going to be 7? He said, when I get off the bus.
It's so cute. Very good, Ray. I am so surprised that you told the joke. Oh my goodness, that's so unusual.
What are you going to do?
All right, let's go back before the joke started. I understand you were born in the Chicago area?
In Chicago, Grand Hospital.
Grant Hospital. I know someone else who was born at Grant Hospital. My husband. I guess they were very busy.
I might have been at the same time.
No, I don't think so.
He's a year older than me, I think.
That's right. He was out of there already. Okay. And were your parents immigrants from Europe or what?
My father came over in 1906. He was 16 years old. Came from Lithuania. All my grandparents came from Lithuania. My father is, well, let me back off a second. Part of it, I never really asked him a bunch of questions, and there's a lot I don't know about his history. There's some things I do know, but he came over at 16. When he was 16-year-old boys were kidnapped actually by the Russian government, because Lithuania was controlled by Russia, put into the army, and 30 years later they got out of the army. They were no longer Jewish. So he came over when he was 16, I'm sure he was fleeing from the Tsar, and he had heard, I am sure, that in the United States the streets were paved with gold. So he came over here for the opportunity. My mother was born 1898 in this country. Her father was a glazing contractor, and it ended up, she passed away in 2003. She lived in 3 centuries, 18th, 19th, and 20th century, called a tricentenarian. She was 105 and a half.
Wow. Well, that's great.
My father died in 1950 at the age of 60 from prostate cancer.
Oh, my goodness. All right, so you lived on the west side?
I lived the west side was divided in several parts as far as the Jewish community is concerned. There was the area called Douglas Boulevard, it's now called Lawndale, and it was pretty much an immigrant area. As I said, my father spoke perfect English. I was always proud of that. No accent whatsoever. And my mother was a Native American. So we lived in an area that was slightly away from that. It was called Garfield Park. It was Garfield Park and Austin. We're on the west side of Chicago. They were not part of the west side. The west side, the area I'm talking about, was a very Jewish, very immigrant area, and I think the rule was you had to have 3 synagogues on every block.
Well, you had a choice. So living in that area, I'm trying to think, that would be Marshall High School?
Marshall High School.
Okay, did they have a great basketball team then?
Oh, yes, they did.
Uh-huh.
Chicky Zomafer and Whitey Herzog and some, at that point, the team that was before I came there, I understand they had something like 125 straight wins,
Mhm.
and they went downstate and won the Sweet 16 too.
Yeah, they had.
It was, yeah, this was, yeah, the Marshall Commandos, it was a very powerful basketball team. Football, they also had a football team, and one year the football team won a game.
Oh, good, good, good. I know about Marshall's reputation because many years beyond that, Richard and I were in Australia, and we met someone, I can't remember the connection, and they said, oh, you're from Chicago, or did you go to Marshall High School? And I thought, how does this person in Australia ask me about Marshall High School? And he said, well, I'm a basketball fan. And he said, and they set the bar on that. Everyone, that people knew about it all over.
Part of it, you mentioned Marshall High School, and I have a note that I really want to bring out because I want to talk about some other stuff today. When I started Marshall High School, there were 5,000 students. And as I said, I was born in 1930. So all the students ahead of me were born in the 20s, which were the good years. The people my age and behind me were born in the Depression.
Mm-hmm.
When I graduated Marshall High School, 4 years later, there were 3,000 students. 40% of the school had dropped in population because in the 30s, you didn't have children. You couldn't afford children.
Well, didn't some of the people in your class, because I'm of that same era, in high school, we lost population because they went into service.
Yes.
We had a number. I remember my yearbook had squares where pictures should have been, because being in service, they were considered graduates, but there were no pictures.
You know, I don't really remember. I think that I want to think that the draft started in '41 before December 7th. I think there was a draft here, and that would have been your class and really the classes ahead of you, Jackie. But
Well, one year.
yeah, but
Yeah.
I think we drafted at 17 or 18. I don't remember, but I think we had a draft before December 7th when the United States actually got into the war.
No, I think also there was a very patriotic time where 17-year-olds were signing up. A number of the people that were lost in the Bataan March were from my little suburb, and most of those went in at 17.
Yeah, well, on December 8th, December 9th, the young people
Yeah.
volunteered.
So how was were you a basketball player? I have to ask that. You went to Marshall. That's the first question, right? No.
Athletics were never my forte.
Okay. So what do you remember in your high school years that really excited you? That you really were interested in? Or were you not too interested?
To tell you the truth, in those days, I didn't know what I was interested in. Like many of my peers, I remember in junior and senior year we took not personality tests, aptitude tests, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, what I wanted to be. I liked science. I was a good student, and not physics, not chemistry, and I didn't know which way I wanted to go, and it was common among my peers.
Uh-huh.
what do you want to do with your life? I don't know.
Okay, well,
Direction and goals and planning came later in my life. We'll talk about it a little bit, I hope.
mhm.
Okay.
Yes, yes. So, you are the younger of two sons, is that right?
Yeah, my brother was 2 years older than me. I don't really remember, you know, what I wanted to say, lived through the Depression, but I didn't remember it. I mean, and most of us here, I assume, were born. How many were born in the 30s and the 40s? Yeah, almost everybody's handled it. Very few in the 20s, and I figured out. I was conceived just about the day the market crashed in October of 29. I was born in August of 30. It was 9 months later, and through the Depression, who knew? I was a kid. Who knew stuff? But we lived through it, and I have to say, most of us didn't really know it. But interesting enough, a couple of things happened. I was talking to a woman, a friend of mine, and she was telling me that when she was a young girl, she remembers waking up in the middle of the night, and her parents were arguing. Her father had owned a business and evidently lost it in the Depression, and the parents had a dime. And the big argument is he wanted to buy a loaf of bread. And the wife says, no, let's buy milk for our daughter. They had a dime. And this was their big discussion. What are we going to do with the dime? And along with that era, I remember I was young. So it was probably 1935, whatever it was. My parents went somewhere, and for some reason, they took me, and my brother had to stay behind. Well, we lived in an apartment building, and the woman who lived in one of the apartments, we were on the front end, the back end, was going to take care of my brother for the day. Okay? And my parents went away, and they came back, and I remember my mother thanking the woman for taking care of my brother, who was maybe 7 at the time, whatever it was, didn't matter. Did you give him lunch? Oh yes, I gave him lunch. What did he have for lunch? Oh, I gave him 2 slices of bread with mustard on it. Oh, good, he had lunch. No cheese, no turkey, no whatever it was. He had lunch. That evidently was the Depression. I remember that story stuck in my mind. I mean, it was a pipsqueak, but that was the Depression that you lived through. His lunch was 2 slices of bread with mustard. My mother said, good, he was fed.
Yes, I can relate to that. We didn't have much mustard, but I can relate to that. It was usually butter. That was pre-margarine days. There were no
I'll tell you another Depression story. I didn't know about it. People couldn't afford to feed their kids. They put some of them in orphanages. There was Mark Nathan orphanages on the west side. I see heads nodding. I can hear heads nodding. And these kids lived in the orphanage. I don't know if they got home for holidays or whatever it is. And I met 2 guys who told, oh yeah, I had a good life. I grew up in an orphanage. He was selling men's clothing or something. And he was a businessman at this point. Another, and don't remember their names, the guy ended up being the general manager of Z. Frank. And I'm sure you don't remember Z. Frank, the largest Chevrolet dealer in the United States. He was the general manager, and I said something. We said, well, I grew up in an orphanage. He said, my parents couldn't afford to feed me.
Yes,
That was the Depression.
there were many ways that people found to provide for their families when they couldn't provide for their families. Yes, yeah. Well, let's move forward. You went to high school, and then what did you do?
Well, I mean, my mother was, let's say, aggressive, dynamic. Well, she had faults. We didn't get along that well. And it turns out, I realize now over the years, she had a penchant for insulting people, and ended up, she insulted her brothers and sisters. They didn't speak to her. And my father's brothers and sisters, they didn't speak to her either. And she was, I don't know what the word is. She pushed me. She decided that I should be an accountant. So it ended up, it was predetermined I would go to college. And somehow, well, a friend of mine was going to go to Northwestern. I said, well, Northwestern, okay. So I applied to Northwestern. Now, Northwestern was very expensive. It's a very expensive college. $750 a year.
That was a lot of money.
A lot of money.
Yes, that was a
Well,
lot of money.
Illinois was $120 a year. My friend said, how are you going to pay for Northwestern? I don't know. I'm going to go to Northwestern. You know what Northwestern, for a bachelor's degree, you know what it costs now a year? $65,000 tuition, room and board, and other thing. And room and board, I never lived on campus. My father was ailing at that point. He died when I was in college. It ended up I was commuting on the L from the west side of the city, an L to downtown Chicago, then the L out to Northwestern. And at one point, my mother said to me, "Why don't you take the car? Because Dad's not really driving." No, he's bedridden with prostate cancer. And I would, so I would drive to school every day, and I'd come home, and he'd say, "Hey, can you give me a shot?" I don't know what he was on. I don't know if it was morphine. I have no idea what it was, but my mother she wasn't able to do it. It's under the skin, subcutaneous. He was in pain, evidently. And as I said, he died, I think, in my sophomore year at college.
I want to backtrack a little bit, if you don't mind.
What?
I said I just want to backtrack a little bit.
No, we've been there. Let's go on.
All right. I do remember those years. I mean, being a year older than you and having friends who wanted to go to Northwestern, but they had a handicap. They were Jewish.
Yep.
And Northwestern had a very strict quota system. Now, I'm wondering, in your case, you didn't come with a lot of money. Some students might have been pushed up on the list, with a nice contribution from the family, and you didn't have that.
No, I don't think that's how you got into Northwestern. It ended up, I think we took an entrance test, whatever it was, and I know I got accepted. I knew when I got there, I realized I think it was 5% of the class.
No, it was less. It was
less.
less. I looked it up. It's 2%.
Could have been 2%.
Mm-hmm.
Universities had that. My brother went to University of Chicago. Story behind that, I won't get into it now. And he made comment, and I said, Chicago used to have a quota system. And I was talking to somebody just recently here, a doctor, in the years that we're talking about, the 30s, the 40s, probably the 50s, medical schools had a 10% quota.
Mm-hmm.
No more than 10% Jews. That was it. And which is interesting, and I find it interesting. Sabin and Salk came up with the polio vaccine, which was really something very important. My wife had polio when she was 3. Both Jewish. They got into medical school. You know, I mean, there was a quota. Some got in. I got in.
Well, you were fortunate because I know some of the students that I was with perhaps didn't have the grades. I don't know. Only one, and it was turned out to be someone that you knew, Corky.
Yeah.
She was the only one of the students that I knew that got into Northwestern.
Corky, I assume had money. This was a girl.
No, I don't know about that.
Well, she came from Maywood. You came from Maywood.
Oh, my goodness, yeah, we were very
they were
wealthy
rich.
and they would, oh, yeah, yeah.
No, and then in case anyone is interested, it turns out I did get a partial scholarship. I applied for the scholarship and got turned down. So I came home, and I'll not forget that my parents were sleeping, sort of sleep. They were going to sleep inside. I came, got to tell you something. What's that? I said, got turned down for a scholarship. So my father said, why? Well, you two make me too much money. We said, well, how much do I make? It was on the application. I put down a number. He said, are you kidding? I don't make that kind of money. So I went back. I said, my father doesn't make that kind of money. Well, so this is 1040. So I put it's 1040. And I got a partial scholarship.
Good for you. That was a case.
And the rest of it, I worked every Saturday. I worked during the summers. I did what I got through. I graduated.
So you kind of put yourself through college. You worked in the summers up at the resorts, right?
Yeah, I worked at summer resorts. Great jobs. I made a lot of money. It was put away at the savings bonds. There's a story behind that. I don't want to go into tonight. But you worked.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was in high school, you worked after school. This is what you did, and you worked on Saturdays. And I got big money. I got 50 cents an hour.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe it was 25. No, but that's what you did. I know I never got an allowance when I was in high school because I was working. I had my own money.
Well, it was very good. Now, when you graduated from high school, your mother wanted you to go into accounting, so you received a degree in accounting?
Pardon?
You received a degree in accounting?
Well, yeah, I have a bachelor's degree from Northwestern, from a business school background, a major in accounting.
Okay.
And I went into, I got a job with one of the 10 major accounting firms in the country, Touche, Niven, Bailey, and Smart. There were 10 large companies. This was one of the 10.
What's it? Say it again.
Touche, Niven, Bailey, and Smart.
Okay.
Sears Roebuck was one of their accounts. And
I graduated.
I got a big salary too. Graduate, Northwestern graduate. I got $565 a month.
Well,
What a money!
That was pretty good then.
So it's, I was making, that's what, about $7,000 a year. When the kids now at $100,000, they wouldn't take a job that cheap. But I was making $7,000. I was happy to have the job.
So how long did you stay in accounting?
A couple of 3 years. And well, one of the things a young accountant did is there were IBM printouts, and you would spend hours a day with a 10-key adding machine checking to make sure that the IBM printout was added up correctly. I became real good on a 10-key adding machine. This was part of what we did, and I did that a while, and then ended up the company was hired by City of Joliet to take over their water billing system. National Cash Register sold them a billing system, and what they had to do is they had the billing was in different routes for different parts of the city of Joliet. And what we had to do, we had to tear it apart and recreate different routes for some reason. That was for the to set up through the National Cash Register system. And the manager who was running that, we were working for, was 5 days a week. We went to Joliet. He ended up hiring me for National Cash Register on a simple sales job. I had it with it. It wasn't exciting. I didn't like accounting. Running an adding machine was not my idea of a life.
Sounds like.
And so I ended up there, and then they actually, I was with them a year or two. I was living in, I drive out to Aurora every day. I was working in Aurora. And then I ended up selling business forms for a standard registered company. It did reasonably well. I enjoyed that, dealing with people. And don't cut me off. Then I met my wife, the best thing that ever happened. I had a winner. And we've all been, most of it, we've all been there. And getting married, finding somebody you want to marry, is scary as hell when you look back on it. How do you find somebody? How do you pick somebody? And I assume some of the people in this room made the wrong choice. A lot of people get divorced, they realize it's just not. I somehow, well, I could tell the story, but it ended up, I picked the winner. She and I had a life together. She passed away 3 years ago, and I remember the rabbi at the funeral made a comment about helpmate. That's what she was. She was my helpmate. Together, we made a life. We started out. We had money. We had $500, and we rented an apartment too. $90 a month. Now they pay $1,000 a month for an apartment. We paid $90. They had a bedroom and everything.
This was high class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but together we had a wonderful life, raised 3 children. All of them are doing well. And
I remember you telling me.
that was a lie.
Well, I remember, I hope it isn't, you telling me that at some point in your life, things changed for you because you, up to that point, you had kind of been going along.
Yeah.
And, but you had never set goals for your life.
Well, it ended up, my father-in-law was an insurance broker, and at one point he turned to me and he said, you know, I'd like to consider you coming in and being in business with working for me. He said, what I want you to learn, he was selling what's called casualty insurance. Homeowners, automobile, business. He would insure a business, a building like this. This is a big deal to get an account like this. Or businesses that have workers' comp insurance and liability insurance and all that. That's what he was, that's the business he was in. So he set me up with a deal in Elgin, it's about 45 miles away, with Metropolitan Life. Now, there were 2 major insurance companies in the United States at that point, Metropolitan and Prudential. And the major thrust of their business is what was small insurance policies, savings plans. Now, life insurance isn't the best way to save money, but it's a way to save money. And I'm sure everyone here has experienced that it's hard to save money. But this was a plan so I ended up, a debit, as I said, Prudential and Metropolitan had a deal where you had a number of customers, a couple, 300-400 customers, you would collect monthly. And when I took the job, I set a goal for me. You were speaking about goals. I set a goal for myself. I was going to sell one policy a week. Now, I've talked about money before. I'm talking about $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 policies. That's what money was in those days. I made a pledge to myself. Number one, I would sell a policy a week. I did it for 3.5 years. Never missed a week. And the other was, I was going to be in Leaders Club. What was Leaders Club? I sure didn't know. It sounded good to be a leader. So I set the goal for myself. I was the only one in the office. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell my managers. Nobody knew, but this was my personal goal. And every week, some weeks it got very tight. And by the end of the week, I hadn't sold my policy yet. That bothered me. The income was modest, but I was able to live on it. My wife was expecting my first child. This was January of '61. My daughter was born April 24th of '61. And I had an income. That first year, I increased my income 60%. That became livable. And that was a goal and when I was doing it, when I look back on it, I said, that's interesting. Because I never really, it just sort of went along. Yeah, I sold, I did this, I did that, and just sort of went along. It's like I set that goal, and I made it. I made it. And later I became a manager for Metropolitan, and one of the things is I had my men, and I had a chart on the wall, 2 per week per man. And we had to sell 2 policies a week. And one guy in particular, Mark Menaker, he said, you drove me crazy. He said, but you made me a success. He says, I used to put out an 1.5 inch colored tape. Each one, I think he was red or blue, I don't know. You had an 1.5 inch tape for each policy you sold. He says, I never went a week without having my tape up there. People would have seen I didn't make a sale that week. He said, I had a chance to be at a different office. He said, but Ray, and I speak to him today. He said, Ray, he says, you set a goal for me.
Mm-hmm. That was kind of like the magic button to set a goal, to achieve the goal.
It feels good. It felt good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And my goal, as I said, nobody knew.
Mm-hmm. So you continued on in insurance.
Yeah, I moved. I became a manager, and I was in hiring people and training people. And I hired a guy named Dave Manico, and he was a pharmacist, owned a pharmacy, Dundee Pharmacy. You may or may not know it, Northbrook. The pharmacy had a fire, and I was sending out recruiting letters. The big job as a manager was to hire and train people. He came in, he said he knew me from high school. He was a year younger than me. I didn't know the guy, know him. And you have to understand, okay, one day after I hired him, we became very close friends. It ended up, when I stepped down from being a manager, and he and I became partners, and we were selling life and group insurance together. But when he was working, one day he came in the office, he says, you know, Ray, he says, you told me something when you were hiring me. He says, do you know you were right? I said, that's good. What did I tell you? He said, you told me that people don't save money. He said, I said, you're wrong. He said, I made a call last night. He said, one of my customers from the pharmacy, the guy makes $50,000 a year. No, he made $80,000 a year. He was the vice president of a company. He said, so I was trying to sell, I made an appointment, went over to see some insurance. I said, okay, give me $1,000 or to sign a policy for you. He said, Dave, I don't have $1,000. He should make me $80,000 a year. He said, Dave, I don't have any money. He said, come on, he says, give me $1,000. He said, I don't have any money. He said, I got a wife, a condo, 2 cars. My wife likes jewelry. My wife likes furs. We go to Florida 2 weeks every year. I don't have any money. Now, going back, I told you I sold a lot of policies, and it turns out one a week, over 50 a year. And I've come across some people. I came across a friend of mine, minister, and he spoke it here. Last time I saw him, he said, Ray, I want to thank you. He said, because of you, my retirement is better. I showed him how to save some money. I'll tell you another story. I don't know if I told you this or not. It turns out I read something a while back. In the United States, they took a survey, and 80% of the people in the United States do not have enough money to cover a $500 unexpected bill.
Scary. That is frightening.
And that's what one of the things the life insurance was for, to create a fund that if you need some emergency money, you have it. Another interesting story. Ask the guys. I think the answer to this. Most baseball players and soccer players retire with money. Most football players and basketball players don't retire with money, and it's nothing to do with race. It has nothing to do with race. Why? Tell you the answer. Baseball and soccer players, baseball and
football,
hockey players get hired. In the day, it was like $100 a week, $125 a week. They had to buy their own food, pay for their own expenses. Some were married and sending a couple of dollars away. They had no money. They ate hot dogs. When they made it big and moved up from the minor leagues, from the home teams, from the training teams, and they got $10 million, $5 million, or whatever, they saved money. Basketball and football come out of college, $14 million, $22 million. We'll give you $18 million your first year. There's a technical term, I don't know. They piss it away. I don't know if you know that term. They don't have any money. And when they retire, they don't have, and you can't talk to them. They give you a present. They got a friend buy him a car. It's $30,000, $40,000. Buy the parents don't have a home. $60,000, buy a home, pay cash. They don't have any money. That's what life's like. And I tell you that story because I would doubt if there's anybody or just a few people in this room that's how you got to the Carrington. That's how I got to the Carrington. I set some goals and I saved some money. My wife and I saved money. We spent money. We took trips. I got the travel bug. We traveled around the world. We touched on 52 countries, I believe. We saw some beautiful sights, some beautiful places. You mentioned Australia, New Zealand. Wonderful trip. Wonderful trip. But that's by setting goals and saving.
So now that you are wise and looking back.
Oh, I don't know. Go on.
Yeah, well, you're wise now. You're looking back. What would you have said to your high school self? You said at that time you kind of just went with the flow. Would you have said something to advise yourself?
No, I don't think I was smart enough to. I didn't know it. I didn't. No, I can't really
You don't
say
think
that.
so? You think
Just
part of that is
somehow-
lack of maturity?
Yeah. Lack of organization, lack of thinking about where I wanted to go and what I wanted to be. And I know I talked to a lot of people over the years, and it's interesting. A lot of them ended up over there. They started going over that way. They ended up, and they went over that way. If they became successful, and they found themselves. But a lot of people, a lot of guys I know guys who went to law school and ended up. Some friends of mine, the guy I know, he ended up, he and his brother bought a department store. He gave up law. Enough of that BS. He said, then he moved along. No, it's, you look back and you say, how did they get here? How did they get here? And I can't imagine anyone saying, I know how I got, it's amazing. Amazing the turns you take and the things that happened in your life, and you look back on it. But you got here because somewhere along the line you stopped just wandering, and you set some goals of some sort. You set some aim, something you wanted, whatever it was. A house, a job, a career, whatever it was. And when you asked the question, I think the real answer to that, I think you got to find it in yourself.
I see.
If you don't find it in yourself, and I think we know a lot of people. I know a lot of people bought it to Carrington. You know, they can't afford it. They ended up not being successful in life, not finding a way to plan ahead and sort of taking it day by day.
Well, I don't want to equate money with success, because there are people who may be successful in meeting the goals that they have, and they may never
I'm not equating money with success, but with the rich or poor, it's nice to have money.
I agree. It's
No,
comfortable.
and money buys you things and does things for you, let you live a life, and it happens to be the same, the measure by which and there are other things in life, and as I said, I was successful money-wise. My wife and I were successful, the two of us. We did things. She ended up becoming a school teacher, which she always wanted to be. She ended up morphing herself into a hands-on science teacher and won a presidential award. #1 elementary school science teacher, state of Illinois. But we were success in other things. Money just sort of is a way of keeping count.
Well, I think it's one success. It's one kind of success. I think if you've been blessed with a family and you watch your children grow up and you see them becoming good people,
Yes.
productive people, caring about others, that's a big success.
Well, that's okay. It ended up. I want to mention it. Turns out I left Metropolitan. I ended up, because of my background in courses, I became a certified financial planner, and I ended up showing people how to become a success for themselves, how to plan for the future, and that I enjoyed. And I'll tell you this, at this point, I carried 2 licenses. I carried an insurance license and a financial planning license, something called a Series 7. I was licensed to sell all kinds of investments, I used mutual funds for the most part. I wouldn't put people into oil deals or something because I didn't know who the people running it were. And like, there's this Bitcom deal that you see. And it turns this guy Friedman or Ben, whatever his name is. Turns out it's a crook. You know, I wouldn't put people into Bitcom. I wouldn't put my own money into Bitcom. I didn't know who was running it, and I turned out, not that I'm smart, but I turned out I was right. People had to keep away from Bitcoms. The guy was stealing on the other end. Just bait into solid investments, but that's where it was.
Okay, so basically, I think if we look at the whole picture, you set goals, you work hard, you have a direction because the goals are sending you there, and that's a success. Whether it's as I mentioned before, whether it's a success of having a family that you're very proud of, or whatever. I have another question for you. We're here at the Carrington. What are our goals here? What could our goals be?
Well, I would say the first goal, let me tell you, the Carrington has a lot of faults.
Really?
There's shortcomings.
Oh.
Don't ask for the list. I'll talk. I could. But it happens to be probably better than any other place around. Couple of things it has going for it. The people. I don't know of a nicer bunch of people.
That's true. That is true.
Sunday, I ended up, we had dinner with some people that I had never met before. Just nice people. Just pleasant people. Gotta have dinner with them again. Just nice, pleasant people. The other thing, the staff. Boy, I'll tell you something. The staff here is something else. They are just nice people. You want something done, fine. They'll get it done. I don't quite remember the question you asked me, but our goal here is keep doing something, keep busy. I'll tell you something interesting. I haven't counted the mob here. It turns out in most places, and I've taught, I didn't talk about it. I got it to be into singing, and that I also found out. I didn't realize that I always loved singing, and that's, I got into a group called Still Acting Up, and the story behind that. Wonderful 15 years with them. But you got to do something. What I started to say is I've talked to the people who perform here on Wednesdays, and this is considered one of the best venues. They enjoy coming to the Carrington. People show up. You showed up tonight to hear what I had to say, whether you like it or not, whatever it is. As I said, I bared my soul quite a bit. I told a lot of things I haven't told a lot of people. But the number of people that show up very often, and I performed with the group Still Acting Up. We would perform at places like the Carrington. It was 3 women wrote our music, so it was all original music, and we had original show every year. The performers, they enjoyed the group, and people show up. We were about 25 of us on stage. There were times that we outnumbered the audience 2 to 1. People here come out, and there's some people who don't, and I want to say, ask them to come out, but they don't come out. There's some people it just isn't in them. But what I said before, and I got a little applause, which was very nice. Nice group of people here, and you come out of your way to spend close to an hour, whatever it is, and to listen to somebody say what his life has been like. It's been a good one. Other places, they don't have, and try to get people out. Don't try to get them out. They're not going to come out. I call them hermits. There are people who eat in their room every night. What should we do here? Come out, show up for a show. What's that woman's name, Melanie? Right? Yeah. She runs an exercise class. She and Arthur run an exercise class. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to end up saying it in front of the larger group. In my understanding, exercise does not make you live longer. It makes you live stronger. You live, and basically, you sort of go like this. You deteriorate, you go up. But if you exercise, it's slower. No, it is.
Good commercial here, very good.
I go to class Tuesdays and Thursdays, 10 o'clock, and then Saturday afternoon there's a stretch class, which I need stretching. My back hurts, this hurts, that. People don't show up. What should you do? Keep getting out of your room. Keep doing stuff. Keep talking to people. Keep moving around. That's what I think you should do. And get involved. Do something. Attend a class. We had the show. I assume a lot of you people showed up at the show. Worked pretty hard at it. People enjoyed the show. You got to do something. The first, I think, is get off your ass.
Well, thank you for the comment. I'm looking at it in a little different way.
Well, you're wrong.
If we have people here who have not been involved in anything, whether it's staying in their apartments, whether it's not coming to any events, what can we do to bring them out so that they can have the experience of enjoying it? Some people are afraid to leave what they consider is their security, their apartment.
My theory, you can invite them out. You can grab them take them by the hand. You can lead a horse to water. You can try to help some people. If you try to help 3 people and one of them changes over and does show up for whatever's going on, it doesn't really matter what it is, just to do something, you've accomplished a lot. There's some people, you didn't say Sigourney's help, nothing works.
Well,
nothing. But if you can try to do something, but mainly do yourself, show up for yourself and do something. That's my attitude.
correct. Well, I think it's important that we maybe each ask ourselves what we have done to help bring other people out, to show other people what's here. We have so many activities here. How could you be bored if you look at the calendar and you see what the choices are? I mean, I love to read, and so that's fine, so I can read. But it doesn't take the place of the interaction with people. That's important. So I've asked you questions, and now I think we'll go and ask the real people. We have some questions. Oh, I can't imagine.
Not her.
What is her name?
Enough. That's it.
Ray, you talk very lightly about your kids. Why don't you mention what they've done so you should be proud of it.
Okay. I have a daughter and 2 sons. Told you my daughter was born April 24th, 61. She ended up Very pretty girl, very smart girl. Gets it from her mother. She decided to go into chemistry. When she was 16 years old, she met a guy named Nate, the love of her life. It ended up, she followed him to Champaign, and she ended up getting a doctorate in nucleic biochemistry, and I said it wrong, I never get it right. That's not what it is, but she ended up getting a doctorate, and she worked at Abbott's for a good number of years, and then worked for AbbVie, very successful career. Nate, they were kids. Ended up, they got married, started life. He ended up as the HR, head of the HR department for a large insurance, Zurich American Insurance. They had 3 children. My second son, my 2 boys both got, all my kids went to Champaign. One of the things I'm proud of, I'm talking money, I'm sorry I talked money, it was very important in my life. They all graduated without any loans. My wife and I paid for their college. They what? For their advanced degrees, nothing. I said to him, he made a mistake in life, he didn't pick a rich father. And I guess in the way of planning ahead, I said to myself, somewhere along the line, if I pay for your advanced degrees, how am I going to get to Carrington? Really. So my daughter ended up getting a scholarship to Northwestern. She got her doctorate there. My second son ended up went out to work for a year or 2, and then he decided he wanted a master's degree, so he went to MIT, got a scholarship there. My youngest son went to California for a year and a half. Came back, he wanted the master's degree at Kellogg, an MBA. And I remember he came to me, and he said, Dad, he said, I have to take out a student loan, will you co-sign? So I looked at him and I said, do you know the definition of a co-signer? No. I said, it's a schmuck with a fountain pen. I said, but you're my son. For my son, I signed. And I signed for him, and he paid it off. They knew this is what you do. This is, you know. So he paid off his half his student loans, whatever it was. My oldest son ended up, long story, he ended up moving out to California. I went to visit him for early Thanksgiving. It's a beautiful home. He's doing very well for himself. He has 2 children. The oldest is working on a master's at a school called Stanford. His daughter lives in New York now. Her desire is to get on Broadway. She's a singer. And when she said, I'm an actor just like you, Grandpa. And she's hired a couple of jobs lately, so she's moving along. My youngest son was out in Highland Park. He was 45 years old when he got married. Jenny Lynn was 40, she's a sweetheart. And he's doing well for himself. They have a little one, 11 years old now. They got her when she was 1 day old. They're doing just fine. He's got a house. And that's my family.
It sounds like quite a success. That's how measuring family, a successful family. Not because they made the money, but because they are doing things to make a better world.
Yep.
Okay, on to another question. I saw one at this side. Did we lose it? Great.
I went to Oakton Community College for my first part of my college education. And Ray, you were in acting up. We haven't talked much about acting up, and that would be kind of fun to know about.
Okay. It turns out, I didn't realize I've been singing all my life. When I got married, my wife still had a year ago in college. One day she said, you know, on Sunday morning, I like to sleep late. She says, you get up early and you take a shower and you sing in the shower. And I'm trying to sleep. She says, I want to get up and kill you, but I'm too young to be a widow. I'm going to let you be. I was walking down the street a number of years later. A guy named Shelley Cooper, who both our wives had been in a group called Now Monte. He said, "What?" He said, "Ray, you're a singer, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah, I guess so. I sing." Why don't you come join the group? It turns out this group, Still Acting Up, came from Oakton College, Oakton Community College. I think they started out, Carol, are you in the room? Carol Burson, not in the room. She was a director at one point. I didn't realize that until I met her here. 3 women write the music. It was all original music. We had a new show every year. We did the show in October at Devonshire Park, Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then we did 6 shows. We did 14 more on the road. We would come to a place like Carrington. And as I said, original music, original story, original words. Boy, did I love that. And I find, number one, I have a very strong voice, singing voice. And when we were on stage, the director said, "Wait, don't stand near the microphone. Stand between the two of them. But somebody doesn't sing loud, use the microphone." I also am able to sing on tune. I've been in a number of different groups. I was in a ukulele group. It got killed by the pandemic. Learned a little bit to play a little bit of ukulele. I still come to see them periodically. I ended up in the shows I've been in. Quite often, I get solos. And singing has become a major part of my life. Was in the Hotsy Totsy Choir group, I think. I know we put on a good show, and I think you people enjoyed the show.
Yeah.
Some beautiful memories on that. It turns out, at one point, my grandson was in town, in California, and we had a rehearsal, and I asked him, "So you want to come out? You come to the rehearsal." We came to the rehearsal, and it ended up, the song that they were singing in that group was "Have I Told You Lately That I Love You?" And what they would do is they would pull somebody out of the group, and I would sing to this woman. And for that, he said, "Sylvia, you get up there, let him sing to you." So I sang the song. My grandson put it on tape on his phone so he could show his sister, who I told you is working her way to Broadway. So for our 60th anniversary, they threw a nice party for us at Graziano's, and they showed the picture of me singing to my wife, "Have I Told You Lately That I Love You?" 61 years I had with that woman. Best thing that happened to me.
A true success.
And she was, those damn goddamn cigarettes did her in.
No,
But,
that's too bad. There were people of our generation who didn't know what cigarettes do, and by the time they found out how dangerous, they were hooked.
Oh, one thing I didn't get to, I looked at my notes here. I was talking about money and inflation, that sort of thing. I remember we moved into Lincolnwood in 1970, bought a home 4 doors west of Elwoods. What is Elwoods now? And I remember bagels used to be 10 cents a piece, $1.20 a dozen. You know what they are now? $1.20 a piece. And
So remember that when you ask for a bagel. You're eating gold.
oh, I told the story about that 10 cents for the, we buy a
Yes.
bread or milk.
Yes.
That was 10 cents. Yeah, I had other notes too. I think I covered most of them. I did mention that we did 56 countries, I believe, we touched on.
In your travels.
In our travels, yeah.
Beautiful.
Italy was wonderful.
I didn't know there were 56 countries.
There's 150. There's something about 150 countries.
Oh, okay.
Did a lot of South America. Did a lot of Europe. Saw a lot of this wonderful. We did, I think, 3 or 4 ocean cruises and 3 river cruises. The river cruises, the ocean cruises are nice. It's like you have 2,000 or 3,000 people, up to 5,000 people on a ship, and there's food. You couldn't believe the food. You have breakfast, you have lunch, you have dinner, and then a midnight snack. And you have a show. They have my granddaughter would love to be hired for one of those shows. They have beautiful shows. River cruises. They're inside and outside cabins. Nice thing, outside cabins on an ocean cruise are wonderful. You get to watch the waves. But on a river cruise, they're narrow because you go through the locks, and all outside cabins. Every day you're in another town. They drive you into the town. The food is not as good. There's virtually no entertainment. But it's a different lifestyle. We did, as I said, we did the Yangtze River. Still in China. That was a great trip. We did the Rhine River, the Danube River. We went to a place, St. Petersburg. Ended up in Moscow. What a depressing trip that was. The Russians, boy, they live a life. Really, it's a life of unhappiness as I see it. They had, the ruble was, the people who were retired, they devalued the ruble, so the people were on a minimum retirement income, and it was cut in half by the government. That's Russia. The other trips were really nice, really enjoyable. Saw a lot of parts of the world, saw a lot of stuff.
Well, thank you for the travel log. That is beautiful. I think some of us missed a few of those places, and it's kind of late for us to do it, but I'm glad you got around so much. Are there any other questions before we close? Okay. We do have another question.
No, she already had one. That's not fair.
You remember the dialogue for the song we used to sing about the captain? Do you remember that? That was fun.
I was Horatio McGee, Captain Horatio McGee. I was told to look important, and we sailed without a captain. I was a sailor. I had a sailor hat on, a white shirt. We sailed without a captain, and they made me the captain. I had a blazer that I donated to the group. My wife put 4 gold stripes on each of the sleeves. They hung a tie on me, a hat, and I am the captain of this vessel. I sail abroad what he sees. But if you have a problem, just keep away from me. I had to keep out of sight because I wasn't the real captain, and they weren't supposed. But it was people loved that. They loved the show. The shows were fun. The show. I'll tell you part of it. And I talked to Pat Holland today. We talked about singing that. It turns out we were having the best time in the world. All of us were bunches, and just a nice group of people. There were Carol. No. I think Carol last name. She had the best voice in the group. And every show, she had the lead, the female lead. And I don't think there was any jealousy. They knew she was the best. And it was that kind of a group. Carol Wechter. It was that kind of a group. Carol got the lead. Okay, what else is new? You know. And I remember one of the shows, the Mall World. Mrs. Green Acres Mall. Mrs. Green was widowed. She and her husband started the mall, and most of the people in the troupe were shoppers, and they spent their day at the mall, and they would sing. And there were 6 storekeepers, and Bob Heinz, who just passed away. Bob just died. Great voice, big Bob. He was a real estate developer, and he wanted to buy the mall and make it into a casino. And the shoppers didn't like it, and the shop owners didn't like it. So we had songs about that, but he fell in love with Mrs. Green. And the song they sang was I Never Thought It Could Happen Again. What a beautiful song it was. The two of them had found their second love in life. And we ended up using that song. All the songs got used again in different shows. People heard the song once and it'd show up again, and nobody would remember it. But it ended up, the show was, your flight has been delayed at O'Hare Airport. I was captain again. Why was I captain? Because I had the jacket. I went out and bought a captain's hat, and they were on a delayed honeymoon, and the plane was delayed at O'Hare. The wind is out there blowing. I'm the captain of this Boeing, and you can see looks like we're not going anywhere tonight. The wind is out there blowing. You should see how it is snowing. We may cancel this flight. And yeah, that was the captain of the ship. And we do that 20 times. We do that show, as I said, at a place at the Carrington. And you know, it was the same thing. We're talking about it. People would show up, and they were paying. The institution was paying us $400, which is a lot of money for a show for a night. And we get 20 or 30 people. Sometimes it's shows you get 10 people. And I didn't understand what the hell they'd sit in their rooms or something. It's not that we were Broadway, but it was something to do at night and to listen to it. And you come here on Wednesday afternoon, and the Wednesday afternoon they get a night. I said before, they're very happy with the crowd they get here. And it's entertainment. What else are you going to do around here? But some people, what you were saying, I hate to disagree with you, Jackie. Some people
can't disagree with me.
Well, Richard told me he can't disagree with you. I don't know.
What are you disagreeing about?
Getting people out is a chore.
It is, but it is. However, I think those of us who care, can help do something about it.
No question about it. No question about it.
You know, some of us.
You gotta try.
Yeah, it's wonderful to have friends. It's wonderful. We're really blessed if we are a couple. However, we I can only speak personally that we prefer to go down to dinner without reservations and hopefully get put at a table with some people we don't know. We enjoy that. And I think if people try to get to know other people here, that this was very much the plan I had in mind a couple of years ago when we started this. We don't know very much about the people we're living with, and we all have interesting experiences and backgrounds.
We've had a life. We've lived.
Yes, of course, and to be able to share it. This is not a matter of prying into anything personal. You don't have to share anything that you choose not to, but we have lived lives that are very interesting. And I enjoy every time we meet someone and hearing about their lives. This is a wonderful place for that. We would not have met, actually, except for two people that we knew beforehand. Everyone here is new to Richard and me, and we wouldn't have met you. It's by being open and talking to people. So I have a goal, and the goal is to try to encourage people to enjoy what we have here, because we do have a lot of opportunities for activities, for different kinds of things. If you're interested in crafts, if you're interested in educational things like book
If you're
clubs.
interested in doing something, if you're
Right,
willing to
right.
get off your dead butts.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, I think you
Sorry.
have the last word. Thank you very much. Thank you. And thank you for coming. And this beautiful sheet that Caitlin made out, she'd be very upset if we don't get some names on there, because she did this on the fly. So thank you for coming. Remember, there will not be a program the third Monday. We'll have it on the first Monday in 2024. Thank you very much.
Okay.